All right, everyone, welcome into episode 178 of Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports, the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. I'm Nicola, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. And joining me from Americanas, Sao Paulo, Brazil, from Rio Branco headquarters, is Gus Tomazelli. Gus, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing good here at the press conference room of Decio Vita Stadium, literally on the side of my office, where Rio Branco president Claudio Bonaldo was doing an interview. So I thought, the setup is everything ready. So I'm just doing here, and we have pretty much some, I guess we can say that we have as much stuff off, the field and court as much on the field because it was a busy week in terms of sports and a lot of drama happening.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely entering into that time of the year where less is happening on the field and more off the field. And of course, the biggest event of the past week was the NFL draft, which, at this point is a bigger deal than the NBA playoffs or the Stanley Cup playoffs. And really, it was a really interesting couple of days in Green Bay, Wisconsin, because definitely the storyline of the week was not about the number one overall pick in Cam Ward or, what X team did here or, what team did something there. It was Shedeur Sanders falling to the middle of the fifth round. And this really got some just really wild reactions from Mel Kiper on ESPN, from social media. Shedeur Sanders falling to pick 144. Yet some people trying to claim this was collusion by the NFL. And, Gus, what is your just general take on the whole situation and the dialogue over the Shedeur Sanders situation? And do you think it was targeted, or was he just legitimately not that good of a prospect and deserved to fall all the way to the fifth round?
I think it was I kind of felt he wasn't going to be drafted in the early first round. I thought he was going to be kind of like what happened to Lamar Jackson that fell into the late first round, I think. And it's so funny how things worked out. Like, I remember how Lamar Jackson was pretty much devalued before the draft. Some even suggesting that should considering.
Okay. Lamar only fell to the bottom of the first round.
No. But I know. But it was funny that if you saw the way people were discussing or analyzing Lamar Jackson's stock in the draft, there were some people suggesting he should be a wide receiver. I remember that. And then he was picked late first round. Shedeur Sanders was so much praised. He had his number retired by his alma mater, and a lot of people were saying that he was supposed to be even number one. I thought, okay, maybe when he wasn't drafted the first night, I'd say, okay, sure he's gonna be in the second round. And then I cannot even imagine how anxious he felt when things were, when the picks were coming and he wasn't getting picked.
Yeah, the thing I will say about Shedeur Sanders, right, is NFL teams, and this is a line that I've heard many use over the years, they're willing to deal with outside distractions as long as your talent exceeds it. And I feel like for Shedeur Sanders here, this is a case where teams didn't feel like the outside distractions, the outside discussions of him being, Deion Sanders' son and all the media attention that comes with that, and the and all of the discussion about, his well-off media tour and, is he better than, Cam Ward, or is he going to be the face of the league? NFL teams, if you're not talented enough, they don't really want to deal with that. And I think for Shedeur Sanders, unfortunately, it cost him several rounds and probably a lot of money here. And because when you look at his performance at Colorado, he was good. He was a good college quarterback. He was very accurate. Of course, he benefited from having Travis Hunter and just an all-time college athlete, college receiver. I mean, arguably at one point last year, he was the best receiver and the best cornerback in college football last year on both sides of the ball. I mean, he won the Heisman for a reason because he was just amazing. And there's a reason why he went number 2 overall, because he is, in my view, probably the best single athlete we've ever seen enter the NFL. But, Shedeur Sanders isn't like anywhere close, in my opinion, to the best quarterback that we've seen. And he fell for that reason. Now, I'll say this. Did some of the quarterbacks that were taken in front of him surprise me? Absolutely. Like, I don't know if like a Dylan Gabriel deserved to be taken ahead of them. I don't know if Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck deserved to be taken in front of him, because I thought Shedeur Sanders was every bit as good as those guys, if not better. But with all things considered, those other guys don't come with all the off-the-field drama. Some people are going to take this in other directions. I think it's completely unfair. Like, if it were those other directions, then Cam Ward wouldn't have been taken number 1 overall, right? Like, I think that Shedeur Sanders is a good college quarterback, not a great college quarterback, and he fell for that reason.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I see people commenting here. My grandma, Emilia Carraro, thanks grandma for watching. And Jason Ward said, should never. I agree with you. People who doubted Lamar Jackson probably should be discredited from analyzing football, because it was so obvious that he was such a prospect, that he killed at Louisville. He carried the program, Louisville never been this kind of reached the same point when he was a Cardinal. I mean, probably, Louisville would have been in the national championship if they would have beat Clemson in the regular season. I think was 2017. And that's true. That's Jason's QB. And Jason said, does your BS add up?
From his former, head coach that he coached under, and Marvin Dantzler. And that's pretty much how it goes down. Because in the NFL, right, like, they'll only accept so much based on your talent level. And if Shedeur Sanders were that talented, if he were the talent level of Lamar Jackson, trust me, he wouldn't have fallen all the way to the 5th round. Someone would have taken him, because having a personality is not a bad thing if you're good enough to back it up. And I just don't know if Shedeur is going to be good enough to ultimately back it up. And he's entering into a really weird situation with the Cleveland Browns, because they have 5 quarterbacks now in their room, right? You have Deshaun Watson still on payroll, who is getting older, injury riddled, and of course has all the off the field controversy possible. You've got Joe Flacco, who I have no idea how he's still even in the league. You have Kenny Pickett, who was a bust with Pittsburgh. And then you have Dylan Gabriel, who they picked in the 3rd round. And now you got Shedeur, who you picked in the 5th round. So, and this is the thing about the Browns. They picked 2 quarterbacks and then 2 running backs in this draft. Now, the 2 running backs I can understand more, because you have Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, who were great running backs. Of course, we have sung the praises of Dylan Sampson a lot on this podcast over the years. But at the same time, for the Browns, it's really interesting to see that strategy to pick 2 quarterbacks in the same draft, 2 rounds apart from each other, especially knowing that they're a franchise who we know historically one does not pick quarterbacks well at all in the draft. I mean, every single one they've picked outside of like Baker Mayfield has been a bust. And Baker Mayfield, they discarded after 1 bad year for no reason. And now he's a solid NFL starter at Tampa Bay. So I guess to my question to you is, do we think the Browns have a plan here, or do we think they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks?
And what's funny that a lot of, how a lot of people, how can I say this? The Browns is just regressing probably to what they were 10 years ago. It's so funny that a lot of people doubted Baker Mayfield, but if you go retrospect, his time in Cleveland was the most stable the organization had, and now is exactly what you said. They try to see what sticks. I mean, they did the worst possibly contract in not only in the NFL, not only in American sports, probably I don't see anything in other sports in the world come close to what this god awful contract they did with Deshaun Watson. Like now when the contract were signed, we all thought like maybe they did too much. 100% guarantee is unheard of in the NFL. But now we can all say that the experiment was a disaster. And now they're trying to overcompensate. They're like, let's try to, get three prospects, three young QBs, one old QB, and stick to the QB because nobody's going to trade for Deshaun Watson. Nobody's going to pick that contract. Like if any NFL GM do a trade for Deshaun Watson, it should put in a mental institution.
Yeah, and should be fired immediately.
Yeah, with cause.
They should get the John Robinson treatment after AJ Brown torched the Titans.
No. That's still good. No, it will be worse. Like it should be just an insane GM would a trade for Deshaun Watson.
I'm trying to think of what team would even do it at this point because I don't think any of them would. I mean, okay, would a CFL or XFL team at this point even trade for Deshaun Watson?
Is that possible to trade a player from one team from one league to the other league?
I don't believe so. I don't.
Yeah.
Also, I think I call it the XFL. I'm pretty sure it's the UFL now. I don't know. I don't watch. Like, have you seen any of the UFL games? Because like the crowd goes to these games.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a side effect of COVID shutting down. I think when they had the momentum, I think COVID killed the momentum. Unfortunately,
yeah. Because I saw the Memphis Birmingham game the other night, kind of Protective Stadium in Birmingham. No one was there. Like there is maybe 5,000-10,000 people max, and they were showing the camera, and just all you could see was aluminum bleachers with no one, whole sections with no one in them. I mean, it's really embarrassing.
What I don't understand is that why don't you put tickets cheaper or trying to give tickets to someone that never been to a football game? It's better to have people that know people.
I'm about to say, I'm gonna look up and see what prices are because they can't be that much.
Yeah, it would have been stupid.
Like they have to be cheap. Let's see. So they have a game next week against the Houston Roughnecks. I'm looking at Birmingham, just out of curiosity. These have to be cheap. Let's see here. Okay, so they have them starting at $10, and the most expensive are just $60. So I mean, not too bad, but still like. Even for UFL, right? I mean, there's better ways I can spend that money. I could go see a movie instead.
Yeah.
It's just, like, look, I mean, the argument that football does not apply, right? Because like we have football in America is from September to February, and any football outside of that time of year to me just feels off. Like it.
And now the NFL literally has a year-round. It feels like a year-round sport, even when they're not playing. Like we just discussed, free agency, draft, even preseason with the OTA dramas. It feels like the football fan is more interested to follow their NFL team, even though they're not playing, to be like, hey, let me go to, and even those cities you mentioned, Memphis and Birmingham, they don't have NFL teams, but the average football fans in those cities they care probably more about the Tennessee Titans, the Atlanta Falcons, or maybe Steelers and Cowboys, then leave their houses, pay for parking, pay for ticket, pay for food, and with the inflation, you have to really be picky about your entertainment options.
Exactly. And the only city that's really showing up for the UFL is St. Louis because they're basically, rebelling against the NFL because the Rams were taken away from them. But outside of that one example,
St. Louis is kind of like, when you get broken up by your girlfriend or your boyfriend and you want to try to find someone kind of exactly like your ex, and you want to say, "Oh, my current boyfriend, current girlfriend is so much better. I'm having such a good time," and then you want to really show off. That's kind of St. Louis with the UFL. It's not about UFL. It's just too anger they don't have an NFL team anymore.
Right. Like, and the if NFL came back and gave St. Louis an NFL team tomorrow, they would be rejoicing.
Yeah, it's kind of like what happened when and then your ex come back to your life and you dumped you dumped this rebound.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Battlehawks are a side chick. They're the side
Yeah,
chick.
literally, it's a side chick. It's a rebound chick.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to circle back to Shedeur real quick because I think there's been a lot of discussion about the media coverage. A lot of people blasting Mel Kiper for making every single pick about Shedeur Sanders and constantly ranting and raving because he had Shedeur Sanders, ranked highly on his board. And do you think that like ESPN and the media perhaps over talked about this whole Shedeur story the entire weekend? And do you think that people accusing the NFL of bias in this situation, do you think there's any like merit at all to that discussion?
I think it was obvious that Shedeur Sanders was going to be talked because he was a very talked college athlete. And even when he was at Jackson State, right? He was at Jackson State, right?
Yes.
Oh, I got it right. Yeah, even before he went to Division One football, before he went to the Colorado Buffaloes, he was very much talked about at a HBCU college. So of course, when he make the transition from college to the NFL, and the draft is this process, the spotlight was going to be at him. But it's one thing to have a spotlight; it's another thing to be analyzed by GMs and scouts from 32 franchises. It's very different. So, and this is a big example from what the media evaluates in the draft and what the GMs and scouts evaluate from the draft. Because those are the picks that matter. Mock drafts are just wishes or predictions, but when it comes to the real thing, it was probably one of the biggest discrepancies from what the media picked and what the reality came, I think.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones we've ever seen, right? Because of all the expectations around Shedeur. Now, I do want to kind of like think about just the draft as a whole, right? Because obviously the Titans, they took Cam Ward number 1 overall, which was expected. We kind of talked about it last week. My expectations are still that, I have some doubts, serious doubts with Cam Ward. Now, I did enjoy watching him in college, but I'm not sure if his game is going to translate over to the NFL because to me, it seems like he can make any throw that you want, right? Like he can make the side platform throws. He has a really strong arm. My main concerns are one, I didn't feel like he played strong competition at Miami. Two, there's some of the things he does on the field, like he just feels a little lackadaisical. Granted, you could claim it's like a swag thing, but I don't know. Like you can't do some of that stuff in the NFL. And 3, then you have the whole bowl game thing where he came in to play in order to break a season record. And then as soon as he broke the record, he benched himself. I didn't really like that very much.
No, I understood that, Nick. Like, bowl game, I mean, in the bowl game that he was, didn't count for anything. And of course, we discussed a lot of this podcast about sitting on in the bowl game and, so I think the fans didn't expect him to only break the record and be benched. No Miami Hurricane fan got mad with him about it.
Yeah, but still, it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things, right? Because like when you look at a number 1 overall pick quarterback, you're looking for anything that could scream red flags. I mean, the Titans have not had really good luck, really at all, with great quarterbacks since Steve McNair. When you look at Vince Young, right? He had a really, really solid end of his rookie year, solid sophomore year, then just mentally falls apart, and that's the end of that because Jeff Fisher ruined him. Then you saw Jake Locker complete and utter disaster. I knew it was going to be a disaster from the moment that we picked him. Then you had Marcus Mariota, who was solid up until he tore his ACL at the end of his sophomore year in Jacksonville, and he never was the same quarterback ever. Then we brought in Ryan Tannehill, who really stabilized the ship for a while, but it became very apparent very quickly that he wasn't elite enough to do anything in the postseason. And then we tried the Will Levis experiment, which was an absolute flaming disaster. So, my confidence in the Titans developing a good quarterback is not very high. The things I do like about Cam Ward, though, is he, at least listening to the press conferences, he does seem to be very humble. And he's the opposite of Shedeur to some extent in that, he seemed to just be like, all right, I'm here, I'm ready to work. And he's, from all accounts, he is a really good leader in the locker room. At least he was at Miami. Really, people gravitated towards him. And that's what the Titans need. Because it's clear to me that Will Levis is no leader. And I know Brian Callahan was talking about how it's going to be an open quarterback competition this fall. But I would be surprised if Cam Ward is not the starter week one, because I think to even just bring the fan base back, I don't think there's any Titans fan that wants to watch one more game of Will Levis being the starting quarterback. And the thing about this year is I expect the Titans to be one of the worst teams this year, but I want to watch Cam Ward take his lumps, but show me something, improve. I hope to see like a Drake May type season from him where he improves throughout the year. And I'm like, okay, we develop a team around him. He could be a pretty good quarterback. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I don't expect Jayden Daniels. I don't expect CJ Stroud. I just want like a Drake May just develop. What would be your expectations for Cam Ward?
I think it's gonna be somewhat in the Marcus Mariota camp. I think it should be the Marcus Mariota camp. Maybe a little bit better, but it should be the same way I expected about, because Marcus Mariota was. But I think Cam Ward had an advantage because maybe I'm wrong. You follow the Titans from longer than I do. But Marcus Mariota came with way more pressure than Cam Ward. I think people don't expect as much as Cam Ward because because the quarterback is the one piece of a puzzle that the Titans need to restructure. I think when Mariota came, everybody was like, we need a good quarterback to fill a good team. I know
the Titans were horrible when Mariota came over. Now, it's arguable whether the Titans were worse then or worse now.
Yeah.
I think, frankly, to me, I don't know. Like, the Titans last year was the least enjoyable season of Titans football I've ever watched. And it was probably less enjoyable than that year pre-Mariota. Like, because to me, I think this Titans team right now probably has more talent than that Titans team that Mariota came into does. But I will say this, because I think of the Shedeur situation, right? And also want to shout out Ryder on TikTok. He's agreeing with the Cam Ward take that I had. And shout out to everyone watching on TikTok. The thing about Cam Ward is I felt like he got completely overlooked this past weekend, right? Like, even when the Titans took him number one, right? Like, ESPN spent a lot of the time talking about Shedeur Sanders. And they kept on talking about Shedeur, and we didn't even bother talking to the number one overall draft pick in Cam Ward. And there is an argument to be made that he may be the most overlooked number one pick, at least in the past couple of years, especially as a quarterback, because he just, I guess people kind of assume that he's not very good. Of course, you have the mystique of this not being a good quarterback class, which isn't a good quarterback class. At least on paper, right? I mean, could some of these quarterbacks develop into a really good player? Absolutely. But at least on paper, right? Like last year's rookie class probably is the best rookie class we've ever seen. In terms of what all those quarterbacks able to, like Caleb Williams showed flashes of being really good in Chicago. Of course, Jayden Daniels really went to the NFC title game. I mean, Bo Nix led his team back to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. Michael Penix showed a lot of flash Of course, we're going to see if J.J. McCarthy will ever play. But Drake May obviously showed a lot of promise in New England as well. So, I mean, last year's quarterback class was just insane, and this just did not live up to that hype at all. And I think that's part of the reason why Cam Ward is being overlooked. And I think because of that, he has no pressure. Like, literally, last year was as unenjoyable as Tennessee Titans football has ever been to me. Like, Cam Ward cannot come in and do worse than what I saw last year. Like, he could be just as bad, 100%. But it's hard to be worse than the bottom of the barrel when you're already in the bottom of the barrel. And for me, I'm at this point, I'm just like, all right, we're just going to sit back. We're going to see what the rebuild is like, because I'm not anticipating being competitive anytime soon. But, I want to have hope in the Titans again, Guys, because, like some of those episodes we did towards the end of last year, like I was just like, I forget which episode it would have been, Gus, but remember that one time I just went on like a 10-minute rant.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was, you were mad up with the time. I mean, because I think because you had hope with Will Levis, like, and his starts, his first couple of starts were promising, but by the end it was just gone
Right.
off.
At first, I hated the pick. Then he comes out,
Yeah.
throws 4 touchdowns against the Falcons. I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is something here. And then as NFL defenses figured him out, he just had no recourse, no response at all. So, and really, it wasn't even that. Like, Will Levis wasn't even the one that made me the most mad last year. Well, of course, Levis was awful. But it was like some of the outside decisions we were making. Like, I think what sent me over the edge was when we wore the Oilers uniforms in the last game of the year, when we were battling for the number 1 pick. I'm just like, dude, like, we are horrible. This is not a time to be breaking out alternative uniforms right now. Like it just made us look like a bunch of clowns, frankly, in my opinion. And I want the Titans to be more serious. Like, this is the NFL, y'all. Like, there's a new stadium being built right now with billions of Tennessee taxpayer dollars right now. With all this investment my state is putting into this franchise, I wanted to have a decent football product. Like, the Vols have managed to have a good football product the past couple of years now, finally, after a decade in the wilderness. I want the Titans to have a good football product. We had a good football product a few years ago. We were making the playoffs, won the AFC South a couple of times. Or the 1 seed.
I mean, 2021, literally the number 1 overall, the number 1 seed.
Exactly. Like, we were, like, the Titans know how to be good. It just, there were some horrific decisions made. The AJ Brown trade. Jason, if you're still watching, you were right. We should have traded Henry instead of AJ Brown at the time, but that's not what we did. We should have re-signed Brown. Brown, and frankly, in the grand scheme of receiver contracts, didn't want that much. Compared to what, compared to what like Justin Jefferson got. But when we lost AJ Brown, we lost the soul of the team. And maybe Cam Ward can get that soul of the team back. That's what I'm hoping. And I will say this, the rest of the draft for the Titans, we'll have to wait and see. I wasn't happy that we traded out of pick 35. Which we could have used to get Luther Burden. He went to Chicago instead. Now, there is some discussion that perhaps he had some attitude issues in his interview process. But, like, when it comes to receivers, I'm not as concerned about that. Granted, now, if you have, like, an Antonio Brown or, like, a Henry Ruggs character-level concerns, then that is a problem. But Luther Burden is is better than the 39th pick in terms of pure football talent. Now, in terms of the receivers that we got, because let's be real, Titans, their receiving core has been horrific since AJ Brown was traded. They got Chimere Dike from Florida in the 4th round, and frankly, I'm not that impressed with that pick. I wasn't impressed with him last year at Florida, but they did get Alec Manor from Stanford. He was previously at Colorado State the year before that. And remember, he had, I believe, like 13 catches, 250 yards against Travis Hunter. back a couple of years ago. Like, he is a really talented receiver and someone that I could see being a starter eventually. So I am optimistic about what this draft could bring for the Titans, but it's a wait and see game. Now, some of the other picks, I think the biggest move otherwise, because there really wasn't like a ton of trades, Jacksonville giving up 3 top 36 picks in order to go up to 2 to get Travis Hunter. Gus, do you think, because I think Travis Hunter is one of the best athletes we've ever seen play football.
That's why the move made sense, when you want to, and especially Jacksonville needed to find a piece to see if Trevor Lawrence was worth it or not. Like, they needed to see if the experiment made sense or not.
Well, I think anyone would have taken Trevor Lawrence at number 1 in that draft. Just Jacksonville so happened to have that number 1 pick.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not questioning the pick. What I'm saying is that Jacksonville want to see if Trevor Lawrence is the talent that they thought they were, or they're ready to be maybe rethinking about that.
Maybe. And the question is going to be truly is, what will Travis Hunter play in the NFL, right? Like, what's the split going to be between receiver and DB? Because that's going to be the real determinant factors. And it seems like, at least early indications, he may play more receiver than DB. But it's just too early to tell. And because Jacksonville needs help at both positions. So he's going to definitely play both. But it's going to be fascinating to see if he can keep this up, what he did at college in the NFL, because it's going to be much more physically demanding. I mean, you're going from 12 games a year to 17. And you're going up against far better athletes in the NFL than in college football. So Travis Hunter, that's going to be fascinating to watch. Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders, that's a really good pick, I think, for them. He'll be probably one of the best running backs out the gate, in my opinion. You have Ted McMillan to the Panthers. We'll see how he fits in with Bryce Young. I mean, he could certainly instantly be Bryce Young's number 1 receiver for a decade in Carolina, because I think Bryce Young is coming. I think you saw how well he performed towards the end of last year. I think he's going to take the next step forward this year. And actually, don't laugh at this. I think Carolina is a legit playoff contender this year.
What a rebuild!
Earlier, that might be a hot take right now, but I think Carolina is going to be competitive.
Isn't Colin Cowherd that says that half the teams in the playoffs are going to be new ones that didn't make last year?
Yeah.
So,
because Carolina reminds me of where Detroit was a couple of years ago. I think Carolina is that next team to have a Detroit-like come up. Yeah, but I think those are some of the big ones. I think the Colts got to steal a 14 with Tyler Warren. I think that's a great pick for them. Kosen Loveland over Warren at tight end at 10 for Chicago. I'm not crazy about, because I just think Warren's better. Now, Loveland is a better receiving tight end, but I don't know. I just think Warren's a better tight end overall. Also, shout out to at least briefly Knoxville's own Walter Nolan, 16th overall to Arizona. Played for Powell for a year. He really isn't from Knoxville, so, it is what it is there. Also, James Pierce Jr., the Vols. And the Vols had, I believe, 5 picks in this draft. But James Pierce was the top one, number 26 overall to the Falcons in a trade there. The Falcons got 2 defensive ends. They drafted Jalen Walker from Georgia at 15. So I saw a lot of Atlanta fans were happy that they actually drafted someone from UGA. So, in any case, but that's kind of the draft there. Gus, are there any last thoughts you had on how the draft went?
I guess we're gonna have to address the prank.
Oh yes, the prank calls. Yes, I totally forgot to put the prank calls.
We had to talk about that.
Yeah, and I should have had that in the Shedeur discussion. But man, Shedeur Sanders and other players too. He wasn't the only one, but obviously the media is talking about the Shedeur situation. what do you think the punishment should be for the Falcons DC? Because apparently he did nothing. Like he just had his phone out with a number. His son saw it, decided to save the number, and then decided to do prank calls inside of his dorm room. I mean, what should
first of all, Falcons DC should really, punish his son. I mean, that's a horrible thing to do. Like, it's the same thing that if you mess up with your dad's job, like if you went to the aquarium and get the aquarium phone number, start making prank calls, or I go to my dad's company and do the same. Like, this is a job. That's his livelihood, and it's just ridiculous. And shout out. I want to give a big shout out to Bruno Bonani. He actually he used to be a referee. Now he oversees the under 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 Academy of Rio Branco, watching us and gave me a like on Facebook. But just to this kind of prank, but it's hard to put it. I mean, if the Falcons DC said that he didn't give the number to his son, he didn't participate in the prank, it's hard to punish. Like, I don't know, like it's just the kind of thing that this thing can come up hard if the Falcons defense is not working. Then front office is going to put that into consideration.
Oh, yeah. Like, he's on thin ice. The Falcons are going to have to be really good on defense, otherwise he's getting fired.
Yeah. So I don't see it as a punishment, but it's the kind of thing that makes you don't look good, that when the defense doesn't work, the patience is going to be thinner than probably it should have been.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. In any case, let's move on to the NBA playoffs right now. The Rockets are all over the Warriors right now. They're up by 24 points, 57-33, but the Warriors are up 3-1. So even if the Warriors lose tonight, they'll still go back home with a 3-2 lead in that series right now. Looking at the overall bracket, the Thunder have advanced. They swept the Grizzlies, not surprising. In the West, the Nuggets lead the Clippers 3-2. Game 6 on tap in Los Angeles tomorrow night. Later tonight in Los Angeles, the Lakers are facing do or die. They're down 3-1 to Minnesota. And then on the East, 3 of the 4 series are already done. The Cavs just nuked Miami last night. Like last night, this game, when I turned it on, it was a 50-point separation. And this is one of the worst beatdowns in playoff history. It may have ended up being the worst beatdown in playoff history. But the Cavs won with ease. The Pacers, shout out to the Indiana Pacers, beating Milwaukee 4-1 with an insane comeback at the end of Game 5, which is incredible.
And I want to go to that series first. Do you think the legacy of Giannis is going to be a one title only?
Yeah, I feel like he's not going to finish his career in Milwaukee. I think he's going to be on the move because the Bucks, I think, have peaked with Giannis. They're not going to be able to the team that Giannis needs around him, because 2021 was a perfect storm for Giannis, but it just didn't work. It hasn't worked since, and now they've been eliminated by Indiana 2 years in a row. So it's just a unfortunate situation for Giannis. Additionally, the Celtics, they won in 5. 4-1 against Orlando, and they're awaiting the winner of the Knicks and Pistons. The Knicks are up 3-2 right now. They got to go back to Detroit tomorrow for Game 6. So, Gus, out of all the series, so you talked about the Bucks and Giannis. What other results here stand out so far?
Minnesota, crushing the series. I don't see the Lakers coming back.
Yeah, and that Game 4 was insane. Lakers had every opportunity to win. It's just when you look at the role players, and there's a real difference. I saw a stat earlier that, look, the role players outside of Luka and LeBron, the amount of open shots they have missed are more than the amount of open shots that the Timberwolves have had at all. So it's just the role players for Los Angeles have just not gotten it done. in this series. And unfortunately, when you have a guy like Anthony Edwards on the other side, that's just not going to be enough. So LeBron has done 3-1 comebacks before. I just don't think that's going to happen here. And Minnesota has been battle tested before, so I just don't think that's going to happen here. And same with the Rockets Warriors. Now the Rockets are up by 24 right now, but they don't have the offense in the backcourt, especially to come back and win. And I trust Steve Kerr and Steph Curry to find a way to get that series done. And then up in the Nuggets Clippers, I expect the Nuggets to finish that one off as well with Jokic, even despite his supporting cast not being great. But that could go back to Denver for a game. Actually, I think that will go back to Denver for a Game 7. But I trust Jokic at home in Game 7 against the Clippers.
I mean, it's funny that, I probably see the Clippers if they lose the series. That's the end of the Kawhi Paul George experiment. I know. What?
I would agree with that. I mean, and what's sad for them is this is the first time they've actually had a healthy Kawhi in the playoffs.
Yeah. But if they come back, I think the momentum changes. But I don't see Denver losing 2 straight.
Yeah, and whoever wins the series I'll be interested to see what they can do against OKC, who just looked like an absolute machine in the first round. Do you feel confident in the Knicks finishing off the Pistons?
I should, but the Pistons are kind of tough team. But if the Knicks advance, that Eastern Conference semi is gonna be insane. 2 big franchises, 2 big markets. I mean, that's all the network wishes for.
Yeah, just big brands all over the place there. But in any case, I expect every team that's up to win their series. But we will see how things play out. And the first matchup we do have in the second round, Cavs-Pacers. What do you think about that?
I mean, nobody talks about how the Cavaliers are good without LeBron James. Probably the first time ever that they don't need a savior. That they build this team actual good roster, but they're gonna face a veteran Pacers team. I think it's gonna be the most even series.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Cavs are a better team. I expect the Cavs to win in like 6. But the Pacers are much more capable than Miami have given them.
Yeah.
And like with Tyrese Halliburton and that crew from Indiana, like that's a team that could spurn an upset in this round. So it's going to be that should be a really entertaining series in the second round. Quickly before we switch over to the Stanley Cup, I do want to shout out Bruno Bonimanas.
Bruno Bonani, he said he told me to tell you that he was a referee at U.S. Open Cup in Minneapolis for 3 seasons, and he also refereed Surf Cup in San Diego, California for 2 seasons.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but now he is a current. He's a current. It's not like a GM, but in like young youth soccer, somebody oversees the team. Kind of check about the logistics and look for the coaching staff. He's kind of that for the under 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of Rio Branco partnership with the city of Sumaré and the Sumaré Academy. They just went to the before Paulista State Championship, Paulista Cup final. They're qualified, so shout out to my friend Bruno here as well. But I think my predictions for the NBA, just to wrap basketball, I think it's going to be just to pick who's going to be the semis. Then we pick next week the finals, the Western Conference. So my matchup for the conference semifinals is going to be Thunder, Clippers. I believe in the Clippers. I'm a believer in the Clippers. Minnesota and Warriors. Minnesota and the Warriors. Knicks and the Celtics, and of course we already have Cavaliers and Pacers.
Yeah, the only thing I disagree with you on there is I do believe the Nuggets will beat the Clippers and give us Nuggets Thunder, but I agree on everything else. Now, we also have Stanley Cup playoffs going on right now. We have 2 games ongoing. The Washington Capitals, shout out Dylan Becker, up 2-0 right now on the Montreal Canadiens. Late in the second period, if they win tonight, they advance to the second round, which I'm sure he's very happy about. Additionally, we have the Lightning and the Panthers, the battle for Florida. On the ice, it is 2-2 after the first period. Florida, if they win tonight, the Panthers, they will advance to the next round. So we potentially have 2 series clinching games ongoing at this time. Now, we only have 1 finished series in the Stanley Cup. Carolina defeated the New Jersey Devils 4-1, so Carolina's advanced. But every other series is still in doubt. The Winnipeg and St. Louis, they play tonight. That's 2-2. Dallas and Colorado play. That's 3-2 Dallas right now. Vegas and Minnesota, they play tomorrow. That's a 3-2 in favor of Vegas. Edmonton has come back. They were down 2-0 initially. They've come back to take a 3-2 lead. Toronto still has not finished off Ottawa. It's 3-2. They lost at home last night 4-0 in a game that they could have won to clinch, which I'm sure Maple Leafs fans, are already thinking, oh no, here we go again. And of course, we'll talk about the other series. So, I think to me, it's an interesting thing is, Toronto's got to go to Ottawa tomorrow. And to me, that's going to be fascinating to see. Do the Maple Leafs come out and play really tight tomorrow against the Senators team who is not going to have anything to lose?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting matchups in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah, definitely.
So my prediction, I still think Winnipeg's going to survive. I think it'll be Winnipeg v. Dallas. I think that's going to be Edmonton versus Vegas. I really do think Toronto will find a way to survive, but man, if they lose tomorrow, man, don't they have the pressure of the world on them at home in Game 7?
And they are famous to be chokers.
They're famous to be chokers, and they're literally playing against the other team from their province, which is basically the Canadian state in Ottawa. The battle for Ontario there. So that's They don't lose tomorrow, Toronto. I'll still pick y'all. I think Florida and Washington will win. So anyway, so that's kind of our update on the Stanley Cup playoffs. Also, some real quick news in the transfer portal from the Vols. Rick Barnes has gotten 2 more commits. He got Admir Abdullah through the transfer portal yesterday. He is a shooting guard from Louisiana Tech. Averaged 12 points per game this past year, but he's known much more as a defender, which definitely fits Rick Barnes' profile. And then today, Amari Abram from Louisiana Tech. And then he additionally got today a commit from France. Remember, once upon a time, he had Yves Pons from France.
Oh, I remember him. He gave us an interview at Rockville Sports.
Well, there's another Frenchman coming to Knoxville, Clarence Masamba. Apparently, he played for AS Monaco this year. Their basketball team, but apparently we can play him in college basketball. So 2 new signings. So Tennessee is continuing to build their basketball roster. And, hey, Rick Barnes, he is not slowing down at all. People are saying, oh, Rick Barnes, this is a retirement job for him. He doesn't hunt it anymore, but he's literally taken Tennessee to 2 best seasons in a row and is building up a new team for next year. I'm excited to see what this team can put together. I don't know if they'll be as good as last year's team, but I do think they will be, a top 15, 20 team at the worst. And hey, especially if Nate Ament and Jacoby Gillespie are as good as I think they're going to be here, we could have another top 10 team. But I will say this: I wouldn't be shocked though if we start slow, because this is a team of a bunch of people that are going to have to learn how to play off each other. So I do think there'll be a slow start, but hey, as long as we're playing well together by March, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I would rather than be not good in November, December. Things starts to getting good in January, really pick up in February, and then on their peak in March.
Exactly, that's what you want. However, on the other side of things,
Whoa.
overall, we haven't really had much action on the football portal. Now, we did get a defensive tackle from Grand Valley State last night, so that was the main sign. Outside of Joey Aguilar, we got,
Yeah, I mean, we are in that period between, after spring games and the start of the August practices.
Yeah. But I mean, I've noticed a lot of increasing consternation. Josh Shell is, by the way, the name of the Grand Valley State player that's coming in. But I've seen a lot of increasing criticism of Heupel online over the lack of commits from the portal, and people thinking that Tennessee's getting outworked in the portal. And I get that because let's be real, the Nico situation was traumatic, I think, for a lot of fans and for the program. But I still think when you sit down and look at the team, I still think we have a really good roster. Do we have like Georgia's roster? No, but we still have like a top 15 roster. And, Josh Heupel, I think, should have earned, I think, everyone's benefit of the doubt at this point when it comes to this football team. I will say I've lowered my expectations to like 7 to 8 wins for this upcoming year. But, I think freaking out because we didn't get X player for the portal, I think it's a little premature. So I think, well, basically my point is football is going to be fine. We're going to be okay. And I think someone else that will be okay are the Tennessee Baseballs, although they did lose another series this week to LSU, including just a heartbreaker Friday. Now, this game ended at 2 a.m., so I didn't see it, but man, they blew a 3-run lead in the top of the ninth, or bottom of the ninth, due to 2 Dean Curley errors. Just Dean Curley, I mean, had so much promise heading into this year, freshman All-American last year, great piece of the national title team, but man, he has not been good at third base. So Tony V has actually switched up to defense. The Vols came back one Saturday, but then got run-ruled Sunday. So 2 straight series losses now for Tennessee as they prepare to play Auburn. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say it's panic time because they just won a natty, so I don't think you can panic with a team that just won a natty. But I'm gonna say this: I would be shocked if this team went back to back at this point. In fact, it's looking like it's going to be hard for this team to even get back to Omaha.
Maybe they're in the rebound year. It happens to all teams that win titles. It happens. How many times we see teams that win it all and go to a rebound year, to a kind of low year?
They're it's a rebuilding year. You're right about that. So unfortunate. Now, granted, I think if we're going to win a national title this year on the diamond, it's going to be their softball team. They're still ranked number 1. They've got their last regular season series this week against Texas A&M, and then they go into the SEC tournament. Very excited to see what they can do. All hell, Carlin Pickens. She's going to get us back to OKC, and hopefully she'll be able to take out Oklahoma and Texas to win a national title in softball. So I think that's where our national title hopes lie this spring, because baseball's outside of Liam Doyle, who has been amazing. He's the best pitcher in college baseball. Rest of the team's a mess, unfortunately. And maybe AJ Russell can give us some stability there when he gets healthy. But man, Tennessee baseball right now definitely struggling, to say the least. Last American topic I have was Talladega. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say before racing, how about my New York Mets, the best team in baseball, even better than the Dodgers?
Yeah, it seems like maybe Steve Cohen's investments have finally paid off.
Yeah.
It's still only April,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that's really early, and baseball expert says that you should really be looking at the standings after the All Star break. But every game counts at the end of the season. So
Right. And hey, the
uh,
Braves, they've gotten themselves together. I mean, they're 7-3 in their last 10. So from a far cry from their 0-7 start. They're up to 14-16 now. They're still 7 games back of the Mets, but hey, a long, long way to go at least. So, maybe me calling for the firing of the GM after 2 series was a little premature. Premature on my end.
how about who's going to be the worst team this season? The Chicago White Sox or the Colorado Rockies? Both.
Now, Jordan Beck, former Vol, like he's been awesome for Colorado, but that whole rest of that team is horrible. Like they're so bad.
I mean, it's so funny. The run score to run against differential. I mean, Colorado has -77, and the Chicago White Sox has -30. Like no other team came close to and they conceded 173 runs.
Yeah, I mean they're just horrifically bad. I'm curious, what is the abbreviation that they use for the A's now? Okay, they just use
it just says Athletics.
Yeah, so they're 15-15. Now imagine if like they somehow made the playoffs and had to host the playoffs at a
minor league stadium. I mean, the MLB would have stepped in and says, go play at the Giants ballpark. Find somewhere in California. I mean, go at the Giants or the Angels or the Dodgers. I think at least for the playoffs, the MLB should be enough is enough with this BS, with this shenanigans of playing in a AAA ballpark.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm a little surprised. I'm kind of surprised the Orioles are last in the AL East. I was under the impression they had a really talented roster, but they got absolutely destroyed by the Yankees last night, and the game, resulted in a brawl. So, just not a good start for Baltimore at all this year. I'm not surprised the Marlins are at the bottom there. The Pirates, despite having Paul Skeens, they're still in the bottom because poor Paul Skeens is just going to be like wasted in Pittsburgh until he gets traded to a good team, is what it feels like.
Yeah, like Mike Trout is wasted by the Angels, who is worse than the Knoll City team.
Right. And I'm looking at the NLS. The Dodgers are 21-10. The Padres are 19-11. That could be an insane race for the division title.
And don't count the Giants out.
Yeah.
I mean, the NL West, I mean, they're going to have at least, I can see 3 NLS teams in the playoffs.
And the Diamondbacks are over 500 too. Like they're not awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Rockies are just horrible. They're in the worst division. I'm like, are they actually that bad, or are they just that bad because they're in the NL West? Like that's the question to have. And also, the Yankees and Boston only a game and a half. Could we actually have a Yankees Red Sox race this year for the first time in years? That would be interesting. So, in any case, definitely keep an eye on MLB. But the last thing is that race. Austin Cindric won Talladega. I didn't get to see much of it because I got to see Hamilton on Sunday, so I only watched the last part of it on the phone. Of course, Hamilton was amazing. It's not sports, but Hamilton is amazing. My favorite piece of art ever. But Talladega. So let's just say that NASCAR fans aren't too happy with the sport right now. They feel like the season overall has not been very entertaining, and I would agree to a certain extent. Like this season pales in comparison to last year. Like last year was an incredible season. This year has not been. There really hasn't been that many great moments. Most of the races have been kind of snooze fest. And the main complaint from this last race was that the cars really couldn't pass each other. And they were kind of stuck in 2x2s. And you have to go back to the previous car at Talladega because the previous car, you could get runs on the guy in front of you because the air on the car in front of you would suck up your car and you'd be able to use that momentum to try to pass. the car in front of you. But in this car, you just can't get those runs, and people are kind of stuck where they are in a giant pack at Talladega. So it's certainly a situation where the current car is not good enough for these tracks. But I don't think you're going to be able to fix it with this car. NASCAR will probably have to design a new generation of car to fix this problem because it's not working at super speedways, and it's not really working at short tracks either. The short tracks have been horrible, like Martinsville and Bristol, which normally are two of my favorite tracks, were both awful this spring. Like horrible races, people couldn't pass. And like if people can't pass, what race do you have? It's like I might as well watch Formula One at that point, like because that's what Formula One is, and that's why I've always liked NASCAR more, is because in NASCAR I expect the cars to be able to pass each other. It's not been the case this year, so we'll see what NASCAR can do. Definitely, there's a place there for IndyCar, I think, to make some gains right now. And the Indy 500 is only a couple of weeks away, so NASCAR's got to get something going before people start getting alienated. Also, the Open Cup is next week as well. Chattanooga Red Wolves play the Nashville SC on Tuesday, which certainly should be an interesting match. I think Indy 11 plays Philadelphia. So amongst other matchups across the country. But more for what's going on in soccer, we'll turn it down to Gus in Brazil. I'll say this, and I know this has nothing to really do with Brazil, but did you see any of that Barcelona-Inter Milan match earlier? That was free. It was 2-2, 38 minutes into the match because Inter Milan got up 2-0 like 15 minutes into the match, and then Barca came back the next 20 minutes. It was crazy because we had the game on CBS, so we were watching it. It was just a crazy game.
And the game before, and the game yesterday too. What a win for PSG! They went in London, so I feel like it's going to be a PSG Barcelona final.
Yeah, are there any Brazilians on those teams?
Barcelona has Rafinha. I don't remember who PSG had because Neymar left a couple of years ago. So, and so funny how PSG might win the Champions League without any big stars. No Mbappe, no Messi, no Neymar. It would be interesting. Of course, they made the UEFA Champions League final in 2020 with Mbappe and Neymar, but with no crowds and weird set. But back to Brazilian soccer, Rio Branco just found out that tonight they're gonna debut on Saturday, June 14th, 3 p.m. Brazil time, 2 p.m. Eastern time at home versus Primavera. Like last year, like the Paulista Cup last year, they're gonna debut at home against Primavera. Last year they won 1-0, so it's gonna be interesting opening. Then on week 2, they're gonna go to Piracicaba, play it's a little bit of a derby, not as big derby as against União Barbarense, but they're gonna play 15 de Piracicaba on the road. Then in week 3, they're gonna host São Bento. Week 4, they're gonna host Paulista of Jundiaí, and then week 5, they're gonna go on the road to Campinas to play Guarani, and then on week 6, and then the things go reversed. Then Rio Branco goes on the road to play Primavera. Week 7, they're gonna host 15 de Piracicaba. Week 8. They go on the road to play São Bento. Week 9, they go on the road to play Paulista. And then they finish the group stage at home versus Guarani. And then the playoff starts on August 24th. So I'm excited to see what Roberto does in the Paulista Cup. That has been a lot of work with the scouting department and the front office department to find players for the Paulista Cup. Tonight is third round of the Brazilian Cup. This week, actually, because started yesterday with Fluminense winning and Internacional winning only by 1-0 to lower division opponents. And Palmeiras just won 1-0 versus Ceará, which for me is the most even matchup. Both teams are in the first division. Corinthians playing right now. They are scoreless. with 20, I believe 24 to 25, 24 minutes. Oh, they just scored. They literally just scored. Hector Hernandez scored to Corinthians 1-0. Corinthians debuted their new head coach, former Brazil national team head coach Dorival Jr. debuting tonight. So Corinthians already won 1-0. And Sao Paulo yesterday won 2-1 at home. And tomorrow Santos playing at home versus CRB from second division. Speaking of Santos, they hired a new head coach, former Brazil national team assistant head coach, Cleber Xavier. He was an assistant head coach under Tite's tenure from 2016 to 2024, and I mean it's a strategy. I mean, it was a surprise pick. Curious to see because Santos now is in a relegation zone, and definitely Santos fans don't want to relive that nightmare that was 2023 all over again. And last but not least, Brazil national team it's so funny. Like, what does it say in English? Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yes.
That's pretty much Brazil with Carlo Ancelotti, Real Madrid head coach. They tried once, he did not want to go. And they tried it again, he said no. So Brazil, stop being Carlo Ancelotti's bitch and find a head coach who want to coach your team. There's plenty. I will go with Abel Ferreira. He's a foreigner coach, which seems kind of the trend in Brazil, but knows the Brazilian soccer style. He had a victorious tenure at Palmeiras, winning all titles possible. Not counting the FIFA Club World Cup, which rival fans don't let Palmeiras fans forget about it. Or Jorge Jesus, who had a really short tenure at Flamengo, but was very victorious too, winning the Brazilian Cup, State Championship, and the South American Champions League, the Libertadores. So I hope they pick soon. And also, big controversy in Brazil. I don't know if you saw it. Jordan Brand is aligned with Nike, right?
Right, correct.
So it was a rumor that Jordan Brand, along with Nike, wanted to create a red shirt to Brazil national team. And boy, oh boy, people hate that, especially conservatives, saying that was a plot by the current Brazilian administration, who is a left-wing administration, especially because the right wing kind of uses a lot of the Brazil national team colors and jerseys to go to protests and everything. And they feel like if Brazil win the World Cup in 2026, it might help the right-wing movement with or without Bolsonaro and kind of jeopardize Lula's run for a fourth term. But this I think it was yesterday. The Brazilian Confederation released a statement saying that it was all a rumor. There was nothing considered. No Brazil national team red shirt.
Yeah, I don't know why Brazil would wear anything but like the yellow shirt.
Yeah. It's in our flag. Our flag is green, blue, yellow, and white. Those should be the colors.
Yeah, like America should have red shirts, but because America is red, white, and blue, so
yeah.
Of course, we go backwards between like red and blue. So, but yeah, that sounds like a pretty stupid controversy, and I wonder who even started it. Probably what it is probably one of these people who have some sort of, because what happens in social media, especially in the modern day, is you have a lot of people who profit off of outrage.
I think what happened, probably someone at the marketing department for Jordan Brand sent this prototype to someone that kind of writes about soccer jerseys, and they posted about it, and then it got viral, and of course right-wing movement in Brazil fed off about that. Like, they really were mad about that.
Yeah. And it's just, hey, it's outrage culture. Got to feed the beast, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, in any case, I think that's all the time that we have today for Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports here, episode 178. I'm Nick Hill, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. That's Gus Tomazelli from the headquarters in Americana. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great Wednesday night.